But my version of hell is seeing the person I was supposed to become, looking that person in the eye, seeing all the qualities I was supposed to develop, all the relationships I was supposed to have, all the money I was supposed to make, everything that I was supposed to become. I'm looking at that person, but I'm not alone. My daughter is standing right next to me, and she sees the dad that she was supposed to have. Alright, what is going on YouTube, and welcome back to another DBA Mindset podcast. I am your host, Bryce Dettorre, and it has been a minute since we have been on this podcast, so I have a lot to talk about. So I don't even know what I'm going to call this podcast until I'm actually done with it, due to the fact that I have a lot that I need to talk about. I apologize first off for not have posted a video in a minute. I know it has been a long time, and I know a lot of you guys have been asking for it. I'm not going to make any excuses. At the end of the day, it has not been a focus of mine, and if I do not focus on something, I am not intentional about it, and if I am not intentional about it, it doesn't get done. Hence, why there has not been a DBA Mindset podcast in, I want to say it's been like 2 months, maybe 3 months, and I apologize. I told you guys I was going to do one every Thursday, and I've been slacking. So, enough with the excuses. I'm just going to jump back into it. I do have a goal for this, but I'm not even going to say it because I'd rather just make it come into reality. So, that being said, I'm going to jump into a lot of different topics that I've been wanting to talk to you guys about, and stuff that has either come to my mind, when I am either running, a situation I've had with a student, something that's happened when I'm working out, something, but maybe listening to another podcast or reading some type of book, but some type of inspiration that I've been wanting to talk to you guys about, because when I heard it, it obviously lit a fire in me, but I also wanted to share it with you guys. So I'm going to be jumping all over the place, and I probably won't even know what this is going to be called until I'm done. But that's just how it works. We just go with it. So let's jump into the first topic that I want to talk about. So first thing I want to talk to you guys about is you guys need to invest in things that make your life easier. Now, you probably have heard multiple people say at some point in your life you need to start investing. And usually when they say that, they are referring to money. And I'm all for that. Obviously, I feel like you guys should be investing in your future so that you don't end up, working at Walmart when you're 75 years old, you're retired, you're having fun, okay? That being said, I'm not referring to money in this situation. I am referring to anything that makes your life easier. Now, what do I mean by that? It's a tricky statement, because you guys have heard me say this before. In order for your life to be easier, you need to do things that, one, make you step out of your comfort zone, or two, are extremely hard. Hence, embrace the suck. Recently, I invested in a cold plunge, because I've seen everybody on, well, the face of the earth doing this thing called cold plunge. And I'll tell you right now, I absolutely hate cold. But so does everybody else in the entire world. The average American does not like cold. And that's why this cold plunge thing, a lot of people are doing it. But this is the thing about the cold plunge. I had to spend money on it. I had to invest in it. I have to invest in something that sucks. And I had someone the other day when I was telling them the last event I did, which was the Deca Mile. And then I was telling them what my plans for the next month are. And they straight up said, does someone pay you to do that? And I looked at them and I kind of thought for a second. I said, no, actually, I pay to do this. And she's like, so you're literally paying to put yourself in a miserable situation? And I said, I invest in hard things so that my life will be easier. When I said that to her, it was like an epiphany. I wanted to make a t-shirt of it or whatever. But then that's where I started thinking, your life becomes a lot easier when you start investing in things that make it difficult in that time. I was thinking about all the money I put into my garage gym. It's a lot of money to spend on equipment that at the end of the day, I use that equipment at 3 o'clock in the morning. That sucks. That's not fun. That's harder. But at the same time, I'm investing in hard things, so I truly believe that when you do that, your life will become a lot easier. So what you need to do is, are you investing in things that are comfort and they make your life easier right now? meaning it could be things like a nice bed, nice couch, a nice AC unit for your house, everything that keeps you in that homeostasis of being very comfortable. Are you investing in stuff like that and trying to avoid uncomfortable situations? Because I truly believe that's going to make your life a lot harder in the long run. And this leads me to my next topic that I want to touch on, and this is what's called, I read this in a book the other day, I forgot which book it was, but it was just like, holy moly. Especially with how I work with kids, I see this all the time with students. And I grew up in an era where overprotective parents were referred to as helicopter parents. And something changed in, I want to say 2007, 2008. I believe that's when the iPhone came out. And what ended up happening is when you had all these parents that had a lot of information available to them and a lot of different stories that put a lot of fear in their mind, access to an overabundance in information led to this. And now I see this with my students' parents. I see this with a lot of parents. And I'm even sometimes guilty of it. There's no longer a helicopter parent anymore. They're referred to as what's called the snowplow parent. And a snowplow parent is obviously, if you've ever seen a snowplow, you know what it does. There's a I guess you could say, I don't know, a blade. It's definitely not a blade. A plow right in front. That's the only thing I can think of. That's why it's called a snowplow. But basically a giant shovel in front of this tractor that as it's pushing it, that shovel is clearing any debris and any snow to make it so that the road is obviously a lot smoother for the passenger or the driver or whatever it may be. And I see that with parents. I have a lot of parents that will call and ask for their student to be moved because they have a difficult teacher. I have teachers asking that. I've talked about this in one of my other videos. And these snowplow parents, instead of trying to like protect their kids, they're clearing the road from any type of debris, whether that's a person that said something that hurt their feelings, that's a teacher that gave the student a bad grade. That's the thing, a teacher never gives a grade, the student earns a grade. Or they say, I hear this a lot when students will say like, oh, that teacher passed me, or oh, that teacher gave me an A. That sucks for you, because as soon as that teacher is not there, now you're technically labeled a failure. And what parents will do is they'll try to basically clear any type of uncomfortable, whether that's a verbal saying, whether that's a person, whether that's a job, whether that's the weather, whether anything, any type of variable that is presented in front of their child that they fear is going to make their child uncomfortable, they clear the road. They clear it from. Now what this is doing to kids, especially the students and students that I see in my classroom, is, and I'm not saying, I'm saying this because of what I see in my classroom, but what research is showing is that this is leading to teens or children having more depression and anxiety. And the reason why is there is a balance that goes on, and it's mentioned in religion, it's mentioned in culture, whatever it may be. It's good versus evil, yin versus yang. Basically, there's a balance. You will never, ever, ever appreciate success unless you've had some type of failure. Now, these kids that are going through life and they're never experiencing any type of failure because their parents or whoever is trying to make their life easier, you are robbing them of technically happiness. Because I think of like my own personal experiences. Any time I've gone through a struggle, like I remember the first time I got down to a weight that I wanted to get down to after I had surgery and was out for like 6 months and I couldn't work out. Not being able to work out for 6 months and then having that access to that was an amazing feeling. A lot of people experienced that in some way when COVID happened and everything got locked down and shut out. They didn't appreciate it until it was gone. There's sayings everywhere. Like they say, you never appreciate anything until it's gone. That's the same thing with success. You never appreciate success unless you've had failure. But if you never experience failure because someone or something is doing everything in its power to clear the road and make it so that your road is very smooth, that is what's leading to all this depression and anxiety. my advice, or I guess I would ask you, if you are a parent or if you're a child, do you have parents that are constantly clearing the road, and that makes you question your ability of if you're able to achieve anything, or if you need someone out there to clear the way and make your life easier? Do you rely on people? That's also what leads to the victim mentality, is you're constantly going through life thinking like you have no control over your life, and that the only way good things happen is if someone else does them for you or does them to you. So again, when it comes to parenting or even teachers, I mean, I'm a teacher, and there's teachers out there that will do like the helicopter rule with their students, and they'll do the snow plow with their students. I hear a lot of teachers say, oh, like, you know, a lot of them struggle, so I just give them an A, or I try to, you know, pass them. I've heard people lower their the F. When I was in school, an F was like 50%. I've seen people that are passing a class and they have a 45% in the class because the teacher adjusted it. And again, that is clearing the way. You're trying to plow the road to make their life easier, but at the end of the day, you're literally crippling these people. And like Coach Boone says, and Remember the Titans, you're crippling them for life. So that's the second thing I wanted to talk about. The next thing I wanted to talk about was this quote that I heard. And oh my gosh, it was one of those quotes that when I heard it, it hit me hard. And I was in the middle of a run when I heard it. Alright, so I heard this quote the other day, and it was on a podcast, or it was on Spotify. It was something I was listening to. It was some motivational speaker, and I forgot who it was. But they said, and listen to this quote, because when I heard it, like I said, it hit me hard. It hit me like a ton of bricks. The quote was, when you die, heaven is when you meet the person you were supposed to be, the person that is everything you were supposed to become, everything you were supposed to achieve, and you look that person in the eye, and it's your identical twin. Which means you achieved everything you were supposed to. You lived up to your full potential, right? So that's heaven. Hell is when you come face to face with the person you were supposed to become, and you're not that person. You see the qualities you were supposed to develop, the businesses you were supposed to build, the relationships you were supposed to have, the weight you were supposed to gain, like lose, whatever it was. You see your ideal, full potential person, and you're not them. So I heard that and I was like, man, that for some odd reason that resonated with me, because that's like one of my biggest fears, is not living up to my full potential. So I heard it when I was running, and I kept running. And then something came into my mind that was a very intrusive thought, but it lit a fire. And I started thinking, that may be that person's version of hell. But my version of hell is seeing the person I was supposed to become, looking that person in the eye, seeing all the qualities I was supposed to develop, all the relationships I was supposed to have, all the money I was supposed to make, everything that I was supposed to become. I'm looking at that person, but I'm not alone. My daughter is standing right next to me, and she sees the dad that she was supposed to have. And when I thought about that, I was in the middle of the run. I'm getting chills right now. And that one hit me. Because then I started thinking about every time I don't feel like doing something, every corner I try to cut, every time I try to do like a half-ass workout or a half-ass job at like my actual job or whatever it may be, or even my relationship with Cassie, if I just kind of coast through it or anything, it's not just affecting me in the long run, but I got a daughter that's constantly watching. And if she ever saw the person that I was supposed to become, and then looked at me and was like, wow, like that's the dad I was supposed to have? Like even just saying that right now, like it's messing me up, because I'm just like, that's hell. Like that's 100% hell if I ever thought about it. But then I also started thinking about, this is what happens when you get those intrusive thoughts, you just go down this rabbit hole. So I had that situation. But then I asked myself, if I don't reach my full potential, how is that going to affect my daughter reaching her full potential? Like what if by me taking the easy road, or not doing something, or not stretching, or not getting uncomfortable with something, what if by me not doing that, it's almost like a butterfly effect for the rest of her life. Like, what if by me choosing the easy road on one, it like sets up this like multiverse that there's just different ways that I can choose, and if I choose an easy way, what if in the long run that messes up my daughter's life? And this is all happening as I'm running. I told you guys, when I go on my morning runs or whatever, there's a lot of good thoughts that come in, but there's a lot of bad thoughts. And when I heard that and I started thinking about that, it's like the whole world froze. And I know, from speaking for myself, and I talked to one of my clients about this, I am motivated by fear, right? You're either motivated by the fear of pain, or like you're trying to chase pleasure. Easy example that I told my client is, when that alarm clock goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning, a lot of people say like, hey, how do you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning? Like I just, my bed's so comfortable, like it's so warm, I'm so tired, I don't want to wake up. Great, that's awesome. That you're motivated by pleasure, right? You're focusing on all the pleasure you're getting right now. And a lot of people are focused on pleasure in their life. The problem is when you focus on pleasure in life, it usually leads to you making bad decisions. The pleasure of your comfortable bed, you staying in bed, that could lead to a bad decision, right? And I'm not going to go down the road of how if you chase pleasure, it could lead to bad decisions. But what motivates me is I've had enough times where I chose pleasure, meaning, you know, I'm not going to wake up, I'm tired, my bed's comfortable, I got my daughter right next to me, she's all, you know, cuddling me. I don't want to wake up. I don't want to walk away from this, right? I'm choosing pleasure. But what happens is a couple hours later, when I know I didn't work out, and my morning routine's all messed up, and my whole mood's messed up, and everything's messed up for that now I have the pain of regret, and I know what that feels like. And I've done it a couple times, and sometimes I still do it. I'm not perfect. I still slip up and choose pleasure over pain. But what happens is when that alarm clock goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning, I have enough memories, painful memories, that I'm like, if I stay in bed later, the pain I'm going to feel, I fear that pain. So that pain motivates me to get my butt out of bed instead of the pleasure of my current situation keeping me here, if that makes sense. So when it comes to your motivation, I always tell people you're either motivated by the fear of pain, or because you're chasing some type of pleasure. Speaking from experience, anytime pain or fear is my motivation, I'm getting things done. And so when I heard that quote and I started thinking, I'm going to probably get it put up on my wall or something of basically like what my version of hell is. Because I literally like have this image like burned into my mind now ever since I heard that quote of me literally standing there, fires all around me, like my image of hell, the dude standing right in front of me of everything I was supposed to become, and my daughter standing right there just looking at me like, that's the dad I could have had. Like that just lights a fire in me. And when I heard that, I wanted to obviously get on the podcast and share that, because I'm hoping that that could hopefully motivate some of you guys, and that's a quote that you can live by. So I kind of switched it a little bit, but I had to share that quote with you guys. So now that we talked about the heaven and hell quote, the last thing, or I think this is the last thing I want to talk to you guys about, is it made me start thinking, motivation is like a candle, right? You have a certain length of a candle, and you hear it all the time. I just said it when I said it lit a fire underneath me. When people say that, they're saying that a candle was lit. The candle is lit. The problem is motivation is a candle. It's only, depending on how much motivation you have, that's the size of your candle. But as soon as you get the motivation to, hey, I want to lose weight, hey, I want to work out, hey, I want to start my own business, hey, I want to work on myself so that I can have a better relationship, hey, I want to start going back to church, whatever. Boom, you got this candle. January 1st, everybody has basically a candle. They light a candle, they're motivated about something. And as soon as they take the first step, whether it's the first workout, you know, getting rid of that donut, cleaning out your fridge, going and talking to that person you wanted to talk to, you know, doing research on starting your own business, bam, you light the candle and it starts burning. Now, a lot of people's candle will burn out quick. And they may have a little candle, they may even have a big candle, but they go out guns ablaze. And I see this all the time with a lot of like 30-day diets or crash diets or whatever. They go out and they burn through it quick. The problem is, every once in a while, something happens. Now, what happens to the average person is they burn through their candle. and once they have no motivation, they think it's over. Now, what I realized with successful people, and like what happened to me when I heard that quote, I had motivation. I didn't even burn through my entire candle. I was still motivated, right? I was obviously on a run. I'm still trying to go after my goals, whatever it be, you know, relationship, spiritual, work-related, anything, right? All those goals are still going. But what happened is I had a candle, and I could feel that it was kind of like coming to an end. But then when I heard that quote, okay, you transfer candles. So if you have one candle lit and you have a spark of motivation, now you can either choose what kind of candle you want. Okay, now depending on the motivation you find, whether it's a quote, whether it's a life-changing event, whether it's just you're so uncomfortable with your current situation, sometimes that little candle, like what just happened to me, is you take that little candle and you light another like 6-foot candle, and it's lit, and it's going to stay lit. Now, the problem is like life will happen, right? Sometimes you gotta find that motivation, like, and it's not so much of switching candles, it's just your candle starts burning a little bit slower, a little bit faster. But I want to know, what is your current candle, right? What is your current goal that you're working towards? So comment below, because I'd love to hear what you guys are working on right now. And again, it could be spiritual, it could be religious, it could be family, like relationship-wise, it could be money, financial-wise, it could be personal, whether you're trying to develop a quality on within yourself, or it could be even physical, which I know a lot of the people on this channel, that's what we're working towards, but I think you should cover something in all areas of life. And sometimes your candles are burning at different, like when I heard that candle from my daughter, and I started thinking about hell, I started thinking about mainly physical, and then like almost like career. But then I also started thinking about how my candle with my wife, I need to start focusing on that again. We need to start going on date nights more. Like I need to build that one up too, because that is just as important, especially when my daughter's watching. So how many candles do you have right now? And then honestly, what is your main motivation? If you have another quote, if you guys out there have a quote that you'd like to share with me, I would love to hear a quote, because I just shared that quote with you. And it pretty much changed my life. So if you got a quote that it's like, man, hey Bryce, I heard this. What do you think of this one? Please comment below, because I'll light another candle if I have to. Alright? So that's that one. We're done with the candle. We're done with the heaven. Oh, I got one more thing I want to talk about, and this is something that I need to touch on, because I never really touched on it on the channel, but it's very important. Alright, so the last thing we're going to talk about on this podcast, I'm not going to lie, I feel good being back in it. Okay? And like I said, I need to remember how this feels, so that it motivates me to set up and film. I want to get this studio going. That's something I said before. I want to figure out how I'm going to paint it, make the sound quality good, to get the camera, the lighting, background, the lights, all that stuff. But that stuff's going to come. But one thing I need to talk about, and someone brought it up on, I want to say like my last podcast I did. When I say the thing, my motto, my lifestyle, my mindset, don't be average, or I refer to the average person. Someone said something, I forgot what the comment was, but it was a legit comment, and I saw where the person was coming from. It didn't offend me at all. It made me kind of step back and analyze how words are powerful. I understand that. But when I say don't be average, or the average person, I can see how some people could take that the wrong way. So let me explain my philosophy when it comes to don't be average. Okay, first of all, it started because I read a lot of books, and I still read a lot of books. But all these books were referred to like, the average person won't save. The average person doesn't work out. The average person isn't happy. The average person has, 80,000 thoughts, or 80% of the average person's thoughts are negative. So I started reading all this stuff in books where they kept referring to like the average person, and it related to bad things. So I started thinking like, man, if I just do what the average person won't do, then technically I'll be happy. Technically I'll be successful. Technically I'll have a good relationship. Technically I'll be healthy, right? I'll cover all like dimensions of my life, as long as I just don't do what the average person does. So I started thinking like small stuff. Like I would look at like what time the average person wakes up, and I'd wake up a little bit earlier. Or like the average person when it comes to negative thoughts. I just tried to, okay, how would the average person act in this? Or what would the average person say in this thought process? Now the person that made the comment, they made a comment like, your video only has like 100 views. That's pretty average, right? And that's where this whole average is all about perspective, okay? Now, if you're watching this, you're surrounded by a certain group of people. You live in a certain town, in a certain city, in a certain state. So the people you're around, your average is different, right? So if I looked at the 5 teachers, we'll take my profession. If I take 5 teachers that I work with, and I took their average salary, right, and set whatever it was, that may not be the average of where you're working, right? Say the average is like $100,000, and you're like, well, my average is only $25,000. Okay, well, if that teacher's goal their average is $25,000, and their goal is to not be the average teacher, well, technically, if they make $30,000 a year, they are no longer average in that situation. Because again, it's perspective. It's where you live. It's who you hang around with. You have your own idea of what average looks like. Okay? Just like me. Now, in that same perspective, if my average in my area, the average teacher makes $100,000, well, if that person was like, well, I'm not average because I'm making $30,000, well, now if I'm comparing me to them, I'm going to say, you are average, you're below average because I'm making $100,000. So when it comes to don't be average, say you want to go do a Spartan race and you've never even worked out. Okay? If you make it to the race, if you sign up for the race, if you start working out and you go to the race, that's the DBA mindset. Even if you don't finish the race, your belief of like your average people you're around and the average life, like if you're that weight, if you've never worked out, that's because you are the average of what you're hanging around with. So if you make it to the race, you're living the DBA way. Now, if I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, my average is different, so even though you made it, that's not cool. No. You never put someone down, right? Because if they're doing something they've never done before, then they're living the DBA way. Because that's the DBA mindset that I'm always talking about. Like, so when I read that comment, like, yeah, you only have a couple 100 views, you're right. But what's crazy is if I was to take my average of what I visualize in my mind, average person wouldn't even post a video. See, my average would suffer from paralysis by analysis. My average would overthink everything. My average person would, never film. They'd be too worried about, like, this is my average. And those are all circumstances that I put around me. Some people may not struggle with that, but that's my average. So anytime I'm saying, like, the average person, don't take offense to it. I'm talking about the average that I built, right? Like, I have an image of what the average teacher looks like, what the average dad looks like, what the average, physique looks like. Like, those are my own things. They don't have to be yours, right? Like, if I'm like, my idea of not an average dad is this, it may be different. But at the end of the day, if the DBA mindset is trying to help you grow and step out of your comfort zone and just be better than you were yesterday, you should never compare yourself to someone else's average. And I think that's what I needed to clarify, because I think the person thought that I was like almost saying like I'm above everybody else. No. I'm working on my own average. And like when I see people, then they reach out to me and they're like, hey, I'm going to do my first Spartan race. I've never done it before. Dude, that's the DBA way. I'm not saying you got a podium. Like no. I'm saying if you stepped out of your comfort zone, then you're living the DBA way. Right? Because technically, I've never podiumed, which means I'm probably just like the average Spartan person when I show up to these races. But in my mind, an average person wouldn't even show up. So if I'm showing up and I'm training and I'm having a positive mindset and I'm having good interactions with people and I'm not putting people down, I'm not condescending, like I have literally an image of what every role I have in my life, what the average Spartan looks like, how they act, how they treat others. I have what the average teacher does, how they act, how they treat others. I have what the average dad acts, treats, looks. Like those are the things every role I have, I think of how they would look, how they would act, and how they would treat other people. And I created my own version of average, and I always try to do one better. And that's what's going to help me become a better person. So I needed to clarify that, because I never really said what the DBA mindset was and how the DBA mindset is really for anybody. You're right, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not, have a jet. I'm not, and in some people's eyes, I may live a very average life. But in my mind, the average person also isn't happy all the time. So in my version, I'm not living an average life. Because I'm happy a good amount of my life. Not saying all the time, trust me. I get kicked in the face plenty of times, and I'm negative Ned plenty of times. But I'd say I'm a pretty happy person, and I think that's because I live the DBA way. Alright, so I gave you guys a lot of information, but like I said, I've been thinking about different things, and I think this is how I'm going to roll with the DBA Mindset podcast. Again, I'm just kind of filling it out, but I like when I have certain things come to my mind throughout the week, and I think in order for me to make sure that I get you guys content every single week and hold myself accountable at the end of the day by me having to focus and be intentional about, hey, I got to get a podcast out this week, it's going to make me more intentional about messages I want to share, right? Because again, if I hear something, that's the whole point of this podcast. If I hear something, I read something, I see something, and I feel like it helps me, I want to share it with someone. I want to share it with my wife, I want to share it with my daughter, my kids, whatever it is. If I feel that it's going to help improve my life, I want to share it. So that being said, I think all I'm going to do is every single week when like I said, when I come across something, I'm going to talk about it. And if I don't have anything to talk about, I'm still going to force myself to just get on here and go. Because I want to get in the habit of just getting you guys 2 videos a week. One training, one physically training your body physically, right? So that may be nutrition, that may be working out, some type of video. But then I want to have the other side of that, and that is your mindset, the DBA mindset, and that's what this podcast is going to be. So I'm gonna do my best, guys. Like I said, I need some of you guys to hold me accountable, but if I could get you guys a video once a week on DBA mindset, I think it's going to help me out too, just with different things I want to talk about. But I have a lot going on with students and everything too, so I have a couple different topics I'll probably touch on in the next one. If this is your first time watching and you are new to the channel and you liked any part of this video, you found any type of value to what I said, or you think someone out there could use this, make sure you share, make sure you comment, send a message, whatever it may be, reach out to me, and then let me know if there's any certain topics that you guys want me to touch on. But I'm going to do my best to get back and get you guys another video next week. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have that DBA mindset, and you guys already know the DBA motto, our motto on this channel: stay happy, stay healthy, and above all, don't be average. I will catch you guys in the next one.